Hey guys, tonight we are drifting back to a time when women woke up with skin that seemed to glow from the inside out, without a single serum, retinoid, or 10-step routine in sight. We are talking about 1950s America, when your grandmother had better skin than most of us do now, despite never hearing the words hyaluronic acid or peptide complex. The women who moved through their days with faces that looked fresh, clear, and somehow effortlessly radiant, armed with nothing more than soap, water, and a few simple habits we have mostly forgotten. Before we dive in, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if this strange little corner where nostalgia meets skincare actually brings you some peace. And thank you, truly, to the person who suggested this topic. Your ideas always lead us to the most interesting places, and honestly, they shape what we create here more than you know. The channel is live on Spotify now too, so if you want to drift off to these stories in another format, the link is waiting in the description. Now dim the lights, switch on a fan for that soft white noise breeze, wiggle down under your blanket, and get comfortable. Really comfortable. The kind of comfortable where you are not moving unless absolutely necessary. Because tonight we are exploring a world where women did not own 40 bottles of skincare, did not spend hundreds of dollars chasing youth, and somehow still managed to have complexions that made people stop and stare. A world where beauty routines were simple, ingredients were few, and skin seemed to cooperate in ways that feel almost mythical now. Have you ever wondered what it really felt like to wash your face in 1955? What did women actually use on their skin each morning? How did they handle sun exposure without SPF 50 plastered everywhere? What did they eat that made their skin glow from within? Did they worry about wrinkles the way we do now? Or did aging feel different when it was just part of life? What was in that cold cream your grandmother swore by? And how did women in their 40s and 50s maintain such beautiful skin without access to dermatologists, chemical peels, or anything we consider essential today? And more importantly, could you survive a month using only what they had? Could you strip away every modern product, every active ingredient, every carefully formulated treatment, and still feel beautiful by the end? Well, congratulations. You have just woken up in 1953. The sun is streaming through cotton curtains. Your mother is already in the kitchen. And your skin, somehow, is about to be better than it has ever been. Let us start with the morning, the very first moment your grandmother touched her face each day. There was no cleanser designed for your specific skin type, no gentle foaming gel with botanical extracts, no micellar water promising to remove impurities you did not know you had. There was soap. Plain, simple, unscented soap, the kind that came in a bar, sat in a dish beside the sink, and was used by everyone in the household without a second thought. She would stand at the bathroom sink, still in her nightgown, and run the bar under cool water until it began to soften. The lather was minimal, not the rich, foaming clouds we expect now, just a light slip of suds that smelled faintly clean and nothing else. She would work it between her palms, then press her hands to her face, moving in small circles across her forehead, down her nose, over her cheeks. The soap did not promise miracles. It did not claim to balance her pH or protect her moisture barrier. It simply cleaned. And here is what is strange. It worked. Her skin was not stripped, not tight, not angry. Because the soap was mild, free of the harsh sulfates and synthetic detergents that strip modern cleansers, and because she was not washing away 10 layers of makeup and sunscreen and serum. She was washing away sleep, a bit of natural oil, maybe some dust from the open window. That was all. The sink itself was porcelain, cool to the touch, often with a small crack running along the edge that no one bothered to fix. The faucet handles were metal, the kind that took 2 hands to turn if the water pressure was stubborn. Everything in the bathroom was simple, functional, built to last. There was no clutter, no rows of bottles promising transformation. Just a bar of soap, a hand towel hanging on a rod, and a mirror that reflected back a face that was allowed to look like a face. After she rinsed, she would pat her skin dry with a towel that had been laundered in water and hung on the line to dry in the sun. The fabric smelled like fresh air and sunshine, not artificial lavender or spring rain or whatever scent we spray onto things now to make them seem clean. Just the smell of outdoor wind and warmth baked into cotton. Her skin in that moment was bare, completely bare. No toner to follow, no essence to pat in, no treatment step waiting in the wings. She would look at herself in the mirror, water droplets still clinging to her hairline, and simply move on with her day. The simplicity of it feels almost radical now. The idea that you could wash your face and be done, that your skin did not need to be prepped, treated, layered, and sealed before you were allowed to feel presentable. And perhaps that is the secret. Her skin was not constantly asked to do more, to be more, to recover from more. It was simply allowed to be skin, doing what skin has always done, protecting, renewing, breathing. The morning wash was not the beginning of a battle. It was just a gentle reset, a quiet moment of care before the day truly began. After the soap came the rinse, and this is where 1950s women did something we have mostly abandoned. They splashed their faces with cold water. Not lukewarm, not room temperature, cold. The kind of cold that makes you gasp a little, that wakes up every nerve ending in your skin, that sends blood rushing to the surface in a way that creates a natural, healthy flush. She would bend over the sink, cupping her hands under the faucet, and bring the water to her face in quick, bracing splashes. Once, twice, 3 times, until every trace of soap was gone and her cheeks were tingling. The cold was a shock, yes, but it was also invigorating. It woke her up faster than coffee ever could. And here is what we have forgotten. Cold water is good for your skin. It tightens pores, reduces puffiness, calms inflammation, and stimulates circulation in a way that brings fresh blood, oxygen, and nutrients to the surface. That natural flush we spend money trying to recreate with blush and highlighter, your grandmother got it for free every morning, just by being willing to endure 30 seconds of cold. There was no hot water involved in her morning routine, not for her face. Hot water was for dishes, for laundry, for baths on Saturday night. But for the delicate skin on her face, she knew instinctively what dermatologists now confirm. Hot water strips your skin, disrupts its natural barrier, and leaves it dry and irritated. Cold water, on the other hand, seals everything in. She would stand upright after that final splash, water dripping from her chin onto the collar of her nightgown, and reach for the towel. Her face would be pink, glowing, awake. Not from a serum or a treatment, but from something as simple and free as cold water from the tap. Her skin looked alive because it was alive, responding to temperature, to touch, to the natural stimulus of the world around it. The bathroom window was often open, even in winter, letting in fresh air that smelled like morning, like dew on grass, like the neighbour's chimney starting to smoke. She would take a breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs, and for a moment everything was still, just her, the mirror, the light slanting through the frosted glass. This was not a Instagram-worthy skincare moment. There was no aesthetic to capture, no flat lay to photograph. It was simply a woman taking care of herself in the most basic human way possible, and her skin, somehow, was better for it. Because cold water does not just wake up your face, it wakes up your circulation, your lymphatic system, your body's natural ability to heal and renew itself. It costs nothing, it requires nothing, and it works in ways that no expensive serum ever could. Your grandmother did not know the science behind it. She just knew it made her feel good, made her look fresh, made her ready to face the day, and that was enough. If there was one product every woman in 1955 owned, it was cold cream, thick, white, slightly greasy, and kept in a simple glass jar on the bathroom shelf. It was not marketed as anti-aging or pore minimizing or clinically proven to do anything except what it said on the label, cleanse and moisturize. The jar was heavy, solid, the kind of glass that could survive being dropped once or twice before finally giving up. The label was plain, maybe with a simple illustration of a woman's face, or just the brand name in modest lettering. There were no promises of transformation, no dramatic before and after photos, No testimonials from doctors or celebrities. It was just cold cream, and everyone knew what that meant. Your grandmother would unscrew the lid, the threads catching slightly because the jar had been opened and closed 1,000 times. Inside, the cream sat smooth and pristine, its surface unmarred except for the small divot where she had scooped some out the night before. She would dip 2 fingers in, gathering a generous amount, and bring it to her face. The texture was rich, almost medicinal, melting slightly from the warmth of her fingertips. She would dot it across her forehead, her cheeks, her chin, then begin to massage it in with slow, circular motions. The cream did not absorb quickly. It sat on her skin, thick and protective, working its way into every line and pore as she smoothed it outward and upward. Cold cream was designed to do 2 things: remove makeup and moisturize deeply. If she had worn any powder or lipstick that day, the cream dissolved it gently, lifting it away without scrubbing or pulling. If her skin felt dry or tight, the cream softened it, creating a barrier that locked in moisture and kept the elements out. The ingredients were simple: mineral oil, beeswax, borax, water, maybe a touch of fragrance. Nothing exotic, nothing imported from distant countries, nothing that required a chemistry degree to pronounce. These were ingredients that had been used for decades, ingredients that were gentle, stable, and effective. She would wipe the cream away with a soft cloth, dampened slightly with warm water, and the cloth would come away streaked with the day, with traces of powder and oil and dust. Her skin underneath would be clean, soft, glowing faintly in the bathroom light. She would run her fingers over her cheeks, feeling how smooth they were, how the cream had left behind just enough moisture to keep her comfortable through the night. Cold cream did not make grand promises because it did not need to. It did its job quietly, consistently, without fanfare. Women used the same jar for months, scooping out a little each night, trusting that this simple ritual was enough, and it was. There was no rotating through products, no testing new formulas every few weeks, no anxiety about whether she was using the right thing. She had her cold cream, and her cold cream had her. That kind of consistency, that trust in something simple and proven, gave her skin the stability it needed to thrive. The jar would sit beside her hairbrush, her bobby pins, her small bottle of perfume. These were the tools of her beauty routine, and they fit comfortably in a single drawer. There was no bathroom cabinet overflowing with half-used bottles, no guilt over expensive products abandoned after 2 uses. Just the essentials, used daily, loved quietly. And when the jar finally emptied, she would walk to the drugstore and buy another, identical jar. Same brand, same formula, same dependable results. Because in 1955, beauty was not about chasing the next new thing. It was about finding what worked and staying with it, letting time and consistency do the work that no miracle ingredient ever could. Here is something strange. Women in the 50s used maybe 3 or 4 products total, and their skin was beautiful. Not perfect, not airbrushed, not filtered, but clear, smooth, and genuinely healthy looking. Meanwhile, we use 15 products and still wake up wondering why our skin is angry. Your grandmother's entire skincare lineup could fit in the palm of one hand: soap for cleansing, cold cream for removing makeup and moisturizing, maybe a simple rose water toner if she wanted something refreshing, occasionally a dusting of powder. That was it. 4 things, used consistently, trusted completely. Compare that to now. We have cleansers, double cleansers, toners, essences, serums, ampules, treatments, moisturizers, eye creams, neck creams, sleeping masks, spot treatments, and separate products for morning and night. We layer them carefully, waiting between steps, following routines that take 20 minutes and require a flowchart to understand. And yet, our skin is more reactive, more sensitive, more prone to breakouts and redness and mysterious irritation than our grandmother's ever was. We have more tools and worse results. How did that happen? The answer is simpler than the skincare industry wants us to believe. Our skin is overwhelmed. Every new product is a variable, a potential irritant, another thing our skin has to process and react to. Every active ingredient, every botanical extract, every cutting-edge peptide is asking our skin to do something, to change, to respond, to work harder. Your grandmother's skin was not asked to work hard. It was simply allowed to function. The soap cleaned without stripping, the cold cream moisturized without clogging. And because she used the same few products day after day, month after month, her skin found its balance and stayed there. There is something deeply calming about a simple routine. You do not have to think about it, do not have to research ingredients or read reviews, or worry whether you are using things in the right order. You just do the same thing every day, and your skin thanks you for the predictability. Fewer products also meant fewer chances for something to go wrong. No mysterious breakout from a new serum. No redness from combining actives that should not be combined. No damaged skin barrier from over-exfoliating or using too many acids. Her skin was protected by the very simplicity of her routine, and there was financial freedom in that simplicity too. She was not spending hundreds of dollars on skincare every month, not chasing the latest miracle ingredient, not feeling pressured to buy something new because an influencer promised it would change her life. She bought what she needed, used it until it was gone, and replaced it with the same thing. The routine was sustainable in every sense of the word. Her bathroom counter was not cluttered with bottles, half-used tubes, products bought in hope and abandoned in disappointment. There was space, openness, room to breathe. And somehow, that physical simplicity translated to her skin. Less clutter in her routine meant less clutter on her face. We have been sold the idea that more is better, that complex routines equal better results, that if we are not using at least 10 steps, then we are not really taking care of our skin. But your grandmother's face, smooth and clear and glowing in the morning light, tells a different story. Sometimes less is not just enough. Sometimes less is exactly what your skin has been begging for all along. Your grandmother did not drink green smoothies or take collagen supplements, but she ate food that made her skin glow from the inside. Butter, cream, eggs, whole milk, liver, bone broth, all the things we have been told to avoid, and her skin thanked her for it. Breakfast in 1955 was substantial, grounding, built to fuel a body through a long day of work. She would sit down to eggs fried in butter, their yolks bright orange and rich with nutrients. Toast spread thick with more butter, the kind that came from a local dairy and tasted like cream and grass and sunshine. Maybe a glass of whole milk, cold from the refrigerator, or a cup of coffee lightened with real cream. There was no fear of fat, no counting calories or worrying about cholesterol or avoiding egg yolks because someone on the internet said they were bad for you. She ate what her body needed, what had sustained humans for generations, and her skin showed the results. Because here is what we have forgotten. Your skin needs fat. It needs the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K that come from butter, cream, egg yolks, and liver. It needs the cholesterol that forms the building blocks of healthy cell membranes. It needs the omega-3 fatty acids from fish and the collagen from bone broth. Without these things, your skin cannot rebuild itself, cannot stay plump and elastic, cannot glow from within. Your grandmother's meals were simple but nutrient-dense. Roast chicken with the skin on, the fat dripping into the pan and used to make gravy. Pot roast cooked low and slow until the meat fell apart and the broth was rich and gelatinous. Vegetables cooked in butter or bacon fat, absorbing those crucial fats that help your body use their vitamins. She made bone broth without calling it bone broth, just saving the chicken carcass or the beef bones and simmering them for hours with water, a bit of vinegar, some vegetables. The result was a liquid rich in collagen, gelatin, and minerals, the same things we now buy in expensive powders and pills, convinced we need to supplement because our diets are missing something. Her diet was missing nothing. Desserts were made with real ingredients too. Cream whipped by hand and sweetened lightly. Custards made with egg yolks and whole milk. Cakes baked with butter, not margarine or vegetable oil. She was not eating processed foods engineered in labs, not consuming seed oils that inflame the body, not filling herself with sugar and chemicals, and things her great-grandmother would not recognize as food. And her skin reflected that. It was clear, calm, resilient. She did not struggle with the constant breakouts, the redness, the sensitivity that so many of us deal with now. Because inflammation starts in the gut, and her gut was nourished with real, whole foods that her body knew how to process. She also ate liver once a week, fried with onions or mixed into a pâté. Liver is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth, packed with vitamin A in its most bioavailable form, the form your skin uses to renew itself, to heal, to stay smooth and clear. We avoid it now because it tastes strong, because we have been taught to fear organ meats. But she ate it without complaint, and her skin was luminous. There were no superfoods in her diet, no exotic berries shipped from across the world, no powders or supplements promising miracles, just eggs and butter and meat and vegetables and cream. The foods humans have eaten for thousands of years, and those foods gave her everything her skin needed to thrive. Women in the 50s spent time in the sun, not baking under UV rays for hours, but moving through their days outdoors, hanging laundry, tending gardens, walking to the store, and they did not wear sunscreen. Not because it did not exist, but because moderate sun exposure was considered healthy, normal part of life. Your grandmother would step outside on a Tuesday morning, laundry basket balanced on her hip, and feel the sun warm on her face and arms. She did not panic. She did not run back inside for SPF. She simply hung the sheets on the line, one by one, feeling the breeze lift them, the sun already beginning to dry the dampness. The light was gentle at that hour, filtered through the leaves of the oak tree in the yard, dappled and soft. It touched her skin the way light has touched human skin since the beginning of time, and her body responded the way bodies are meant to, by making vitamin D. Vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it is a hormone that regulates hundreds of processes in your body, including skin health, immune function, and mood. And you cannot get enough of it from food or supplements. You need the sun. Your skin needs the sun. Not hours of it, not sunburns and damage, but regular, moderate exposure that allows your body to do what it was designed to do. Your grandmother got that exposure naturally, woven into the fabric of her day. 15 minutes hanging laundry, 20 minutes walking to the market, half an hour working in the garden, pulling weeds, planting tomatoes, checking on the roses. She was not trying to tan. She was not lying on a towel with baby oil, chasing bronze skin. She was simply living, and the sun was part of that life. Her skin adapted to the sun because she was exposed to it gradually, consistently. She built up a natural tolerance, a base level of protection that came from within, not from a bottle. Her skin knew how to handle sunlight because it had never been hidden from it completely. And here is something we do not talk about. Moderate sun exposure can actually improve certain skin conditions. It reduces inflammation, helps heal acne, alleviates eczema and psoriasis. The sun is not just the enemy we have been taught to fear. In the right amounts, it is medicine. She did not fear wrinkles the way we do now, did not obsess over sun damage or age spots or the idea that every ray of sunlight was stealing her youth. She understood, in a way we have forgotten, that aging was natural, inevitable, nothing to wage war against. A few lines around her eyes were not a crisis. They were simply proof that she had lived, that she had smiled, that she had spent time outdoors in the world instead of hiding inside. Of course, she was not reckless. On the rare occasions when she knew she would be outside for hours, maybe at a picnic or a day at the lake, she would wear a hat with a wide brim, the kind that shaded her face and neck and kept her cool. She would sit under a tree during the hottest part of the day, letting the shade protect her while she still enjoyed being outside. But most days, she did not think about the sun at all. It was just there, part of the rhythm of life, and her skin was healthier for it. Her mood was brighter, her sleep was better, her immune system was stronger, all because she was not afraid to step outside. We have swung too far in the other direction now, hiding from the sun as if it were only dangerous, slathering ourselves in sunscreen even for a walk to the mailbox, cutting ourselves off from the very light our bodies need to function. And then we wonder why our vitamin D levels are low, why our skin is dull, why we feel tired and depleted, even in the middle of summer. Your grandmother did not have that problem. She lived in balance with the sun, respecting it but not fearing it, and her skin, touched by light and warmed by its glow, was radiant in a way no cream could replicate. Every woman carried a powder compact in her purse, a small, elegant case that held pressed powder and a little puff. It was not full coverage foundation. It was not meant to transform your face. It was simply powder used to mattify shine and set your look with a soft, natural finish. The compact itself was beautiful, designed to be carried, to be seen. Some were simple metal cases, smooth and cool to the touch, maybe engraved with initials or a delicate pattern. Others were more decorative, inlaid with enamel or mother of pearl, small works of art that fit perfectly in the palm of your hand. Your grandmother would pull hers from her purse when she felt her nose getting shiny or her forehead starting to glow, usually mid-afternoon when the day's warmth had settled into her skin. She would flip open the compact with a soft click, revealing the pressed powder inside, pale and smooth, and the small cotton puff nestled beside it. The powder was translucent, or close to it, designed not to cover but to diffuse, to soften the natural oils on her skin without masking her complexion. She would press the puff gently into the powder, then pat it onto her face, concentrating on her T-zone, the areas where shine appeared first. The motion was practiced, almost automatic, something she had done so many times it required no thought. Pat, pat, pat. A light dusting that left her looking fresh, matte, polished, but still like herself. The powder did not change the color of her skin, did not cover her freckles or the faint flush in her cheeks. It simply took away the shine and left everything else intact. There was no mirror needed, not always. She knew her face well enough to powder by feel, touching the puff to her nose, her forehead, her chin, trusting her fingers to guide her. But sometimes, if she was sitting in a cafe or waiting for the bus, she would angle the compact small mirror to check, tilting it to catch the light, making sure she looked presentable. The powder smelled faintly sweet, a soft floral scent that was never overpowering, just a whisper of roses or violets that faded almost as soon as you noticed it. That scent became associated with her, with the small rituals of femininity she carried out in public, discreetly, gracefully. Reapplying powder was not seen as vain. It was simply part of being put together, part of moving through the world with care and attention. She would do it quickly, efficiently, then tuck the compact back into her purse and continue with her day. The compact lasted for years. The hinge might loosen slightly, the mirror might get a small crack, but she kept using it until it finally fell apart, or until she found a new one she loved just as much. There was no throwing it away after a few months, no constant need for the latest version. It was a tool, reliable and well-made, designed to last. And the powder inside was just as enduring. A single compact could last for months because she did not need much, just enough to take away the shine, just enough to feel polished. She was not caking it on, not using it to create a mask. She was using it to enhance what was already there. That restraint, that lightness of touch, kept her skin healthy. The powder did not clog her pores because she was not wearing it thick. It did not cause breakouts because she was not layering it over heavy makeup. It simply sat on the surface, doing its job, then was washed away at the end of the day with soap and cold cream. There was elegance in that simplicity. The compact in her purse was not just a beauty product. It was a small ritual of care, a moment to pause, to check in with herself, to make sure she was presenting herself the way she wanted to be seen. And then, with a quiet click, she closed the compact and moved on. When women in the 50s talked about beauty sleep, they meant it literally. They went to bed at reasonable hours, slept through the night, and woke up refreshed. There was no doom scrolling, no blue light from screens, no lying awake scrolling through other people's highlight reels. Your grandmother's bedtime routine was simple and predictable. As the evening wound down, as the dishes were washed and the house grew quiet, she would begin preparing for sleep. This was not a rushed affair, not a collapse into bed after staying up too late. It was a deliberate transition, a gentle easing from wakefulness into rest. She would wash her face at the bathroom sink, using her soap and cold cream, massaging away the day. Then she would brush her hair, long strokes from root to tip, a ritual that was both practical and soothing. Sometimes she would set her hair in rollers if she wanted it to look nice the next day, but other times she would simply braid it loosely to keep it from tangling. Her bedroom was dark, truly dark. No streetlights streaming through the windows, no glowing alarm clock, no phone charging on the nightstand with its small, insistent light. Just darkness, the kind that wraps around you and tells your brain it is time to sleep. The bed itself was made with care each morning, so climbing into it at night felt like a reward. The sheets were cotton, cool and crisp, washed and line-dried until they smelled like fresh air. The blankets were wool or a simple quilt, heavy enough to feel comforting without being suffocating. The pillow was soft, filled with down or feathers, molding to the shape of her head. She would lie down, adjust the blankets, and close her eyes, and within minutes she was asleep. Not because she was unusually gifted at sleeping, but because her body and her environment were aligned for rest. Her days were physically active. She moved her body, worked with her hands, spent time outside. All of that activity created a natural tiredness that made sleep easy. Not the wired exhaustion we feel now from staring at screens all day, but a wholesome, earned fatigue that settled into her bones and asked for rest. Her evenings were calm. There was no television blaring, no constant stimulation, no news cycle feeding her anxiety before bed. She might read a book or listen to the radio for a bit, but when it was time to sleep, she turned everything off and let the quiet settle. Her mind was not racing. She was not replaying social interactions or worrying about what people thought of her or comparing herself to anyone. She did not lie awake wondering if she was enough, if she was doing enough, if her life measured up. She simply let the day go and trusted that tomorrow would come. And because she slept well, deeply, consistently, her skin had time to repair itself. Sleep is when your body does its most important healing work, when growth hormones are released, when cells regenerate, when inflammation is reduced. Every night of good sleep was like a free facial, a reset button that left her skin clearer, brighter, more resilient. She woke naturally most mornings, as the light began to creep through the windows, as the birds started singing, as the house stirred to life around her. No jarring alarm, no snooze button, no groggy stumbling into the day, just a gentle waking, a slow return to consciousness that honored the rest she had just received. Her sleep was consistent too. She went to bed around the same time every night, woke around the same time every morning. Her body's internal clock was synchronized with the natural rhythm of day and night, and that regularity made sleep come easily and last deeply. There was no sleep debt, no crashing on weekends to make up for late nights during the week. She was simply rested, consistently, and her skin showed it. No dark circles, no puffiness, no dull exhaustion written across her face. Just the healthy glow of someone whose body had been given what it needed most. Time to rest, to heal, to be still. Life in 1955 was not stress-free, but the kind of stress women experienced was different. There was no constant connectivity, no pressure to document every moment, no comparison trap waiting in your pocket 24 hours a day. Your skin did not have to recover from the cortisol spike of checking your phone 40 times before breakfast. Your grandmother woke up in the morning and simply began her day. There was no reaching for a phone, no scrolling through notifications, no flood of information and images and opinions before she had even gotten out of bed. The first thing she saw was her room, her curtains, the light coming through the window. The first thing she thought about was what needed to be done that day, not what everyone else in the world was doing. Her stress was tangible, manageable, tied to real things happening in real time. The laundry needed to be done, the children needed to be fed, the grocery shopping needed to happen before the store closed. These were tasks with clear beginnings and endings, things she could complete and check off and feel satisfied about. She was not carrying the weight of global news, political arguments, distant tragedies, and strangers' opinions everywhere she went. The news came once a day, in the evening, on the radio, or in the newspaper. She absorbed it, thought about it, and then it was done. There was no refresh button, no endless scroll, no constant updates reminding her of everything wrong in the world. And because of that, her nervous system had time to rest. Her body was not in a constant state of low-level fight or flight, not pumping out cortisol and adrenaline in response to every notification, every headline, every comparison to someone else's seemingly perfect life. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is devastating to your skin. It breaks down collagen, triggers inflammation, disrupts your skin barrier, and accelerates aging. When you are chronically stressed, your skin shows it. Breakouts, redness, dullness, fine lines that appear seemingly overnight. Your grandmother's cortisol levels rose when something genuinely stressful happened, and then they came back down when the stressful thing passed. Her body was allowed to return to baseline, to rest, to repair. She was not living in a state of perpetual activation the way we do now. Her days also had natural pauses built in. A cup of coffee in the morning, sitting at the table instead of rushing out the door. A moment in the afternoon to sit down, maybe with some mending or a magazine, just a few minutes to breathe. The evening routine of dinner, dishes, quiet time before bed, these pauses were not luxuries. They were just part of the rhythm of life. She was not multitasking constantly, not trying to do 5 things at once while also staying on top of messages and emails and updates. She did one thing at a time, gave it her attention, finished it, and moved on to the next. That kind of focus, that presence, is deeply calming to the nervous system. And she was not comparing herself to anyone except maybe her neighbors, and even then the comparison was limited. She could see what they wore, how they kept their house, what they served at dinner. But she could not see into their minds, could not watch a curated highlight reel of their best moments, could not torture herself with the gap between her real life and someone else's polished facade. She knew everyone had struggles, everyone had bad days, everyone's house got messy, and everyone's children misbehaved sometimes. There was no illusion of perfection to live up to, just real life, in all its imperfect, ordinary beauty. Her skin benefited from that peace. It was calm, balanced, resilient. She did not wake up with stress breakouts or stress-related inflammation. Her face did not carry the tension we see in mirrors now, the tightness around the eyes, the lines between the brows from constant worry. She had worries, of course. She had hard days. But those worries stayed in proportion, did not balloon into existential crises, did not follow her everywhere she went in the form of a device she could not put down. And at the end of the day, she could let them go. She could wash her face, put on her nightgown, climb into bed, and sleep deeply and peacefully, knowing that tomorrow was another day and she would face it when it came. Once a week, women mixed up simple masks at home using ingredients from the kitchen: egg whites for tightening, honey for moisture, oatmeal for gentle exfoliation, mashed avocado for dry skin. These were not Instagram-worthy spa moments. They were practical, effective treatments that cost almost nothing. Sunday afternoon, after the dishes were done and before dinner needed to be started, your grandmother would stand in her kitchen and pull out a small bowl. This was her time, a quiet ritual she looked forward to, a moment to do something just for herself. If her skin felt dull or tired, she would crack an egg and separate the white from the yolk, whisking the white with a fork until it was frothy. Egg white masks tighten and tone the skin, drawing out impurities, shrinking the appearance of pores, leaving your face feeling firm and refreshed. She would paint it onto her clean face with her fingers, working it gently over her forehead, her cheeks, her chin. The egg white would begin to dry almost immediately, tightening as it set, pulling her skin taut in a way that felt strange but satisfying. She would lie down on the couch or sit in a chair, a towel draped over her shoulders, and wait for it to dry completely. 15 minutes later, she would rinse it away with warm water, watching the white film dissolve and swirl down the drain. Her skin underneath would be smooth, tight, glowing faintly. The treatment cost her 1 egg white, that was all. Other weeks, if her skin felt dry or irritated, she would reach for honey, just plain honey from the jar in the pantry, the kind she used for tea and toast. She would spread a thin layer over her face, feeling it stick slightly, the sweetness filling the air around her. Honey is a humectant, meaning it draws moisture into the skin and holds it there. It is also antibacterial, soothing, healing. It calms redness, helps with breakouts, and leaves your skin soft and supple. She would let it sit for 20 minutes, maybe longer, while she folded laundry or read a magazine, occasionally licking a stray drop from the corner of her mouth. When she rinsed it away, her face would feel like silk, soft, hydrated, calm. And the only ingredient she used was honey. If her skin needed exfoliation, she would grind up some oatmeal in a small bowl, mixing it with a bit of milk or water to form a paste. Oatmeal is one of the gentlest exfoliants in the world, soothing and anti-inflammatory, perfect for sensitive skin. She would massage it onto her face in slow circles, feeling the fine grains slough away dead skin, then rinse it clean. Avocado masks were saved for when her skin felt especially parched, usually in winter when the air was dry and the wind was harsh. She would mash half an avocado with a fork until it was smooth and creamy, then spread it over her face like frosting on a cake. Avocado is full of healthy fats and vitamins, everything dry skin craves. It soaks in slowly, deeply, nourishing in a way that is almost luxurious. She would sit with it on for half an hour, feeling pampered and cared for, even though the whole treatment cost less than a quarter. These masks were effective not because they contained miracle ingredients, but because they contained real ingredients, pure, simple, exactly what skin has been responding to for thousands of years. There was no lengthy ingredient list, no preservatives or fillers, no fragrance or dyes, just food. The same food she ate, now applied to her skin, and her skin knew what to do with it. She did not stress about which mask to use or whether she was doing it right. She listened to her skin, noticed what it needed, and mixed up something to address that need. It was intuitive, practical, effective. And when she was done, when her face was rinsed and glowing, she would feel renewed, not because she had spent a fortune or followed a complicated routine, but because she had taken time to care for herself, simply and gently, with her own hands and ingredients from her own kitchen. Most women in the 50s wore very little makeup on a daily basis. A bit of powder, maybe some lipstick, occasionally a swipe of mascara. Their skin was allowed to breathe, to function normally, to repair itself without being suffocated under layers of product every single day. Your grandmother would stand at her vanity in the morning, looking at her reflection in natural light streaming through the window, and decide what she needed. Most days, the answer was simple: not much. Her skin was clear enough, healthy enough, that she did not feel the need to cover it. She would dust on some powder, just enough to take away any shine, and apply lipstick, a quick swipe of colour that made her feel polished and awake. That was it. 2 products applied in under 2 minutes, and she was ready to face her day. There was no foundation to blend, no concealer to pat under her eyes, no contouring or highlighting or any of the elaborate face painting we do now. Her face looked like her face, just slightly enhanced, the way makeup was always meant to be used. And because she was not covering her skin every day, because she was not clogging her pores with heavy makeup and then struggling to remove it completely at night, her skin stayed clear. It could breathe. It could regulate its own oil production. It could do what skin is designed to do without constant interference. The makeup she did wear was simple, made with fewer ingredients, less likely to cause reactions. Her powder was talc and a bit of colour. Her lipstick was wax and pigment. Nothing complicated, nothing synthetic, nothing her skin had to fight against. She saved the heavier makeup for special occasions, for evenings out or parties or events where she wanted to look more glamorous. And even then, it was nothing like what we wear now. A bit more powder, maybe some rouge on her cheeks, A darker lipstick, a careful application of mascara. She looked polished, beautiful, but still recognizably herself. The rest of the time, her skin was mostly bare, and that bare skin got stronger, more resilient, better at taking care of itself. It learned to balance its own oil production, to heal its own blemishes, to protect itself without relying on a barrier of makeup. There was also something freeing about not wearing makeup every day. She did not feel naked or unfinished without it. She did not worry about what she looked like running to the store or working in the garden or answering the door. Her face was just her face, acceptable as it was, not something that needed constant correction. That confidence, that comfort in her own skin, showed. She carried herself with an ease that is harder to find now, when so many of us feel we cannot leave the house without our faces fully done, without the armor of foundation and concealer hiding what we think are flaws. Her skin also had time to rest. Every day she went without makeup was a day her pores were not clogged. Her skin was not struggling to breathe beneath layers of product. And that rest, that daily reprieve, kept her skin healthy in ways we do not fully appreciate until we try it ourselves. When she did wear makeup, she removed it thoroughly at night with her cold cream, massaging it away, making sure nothing was left behind. And then her skin had the whole night to recover, to renew, to simply be skin without anything asked of it. The cycle was balanced. A little makeup when needed, removed completely, then bare skin allowed to rest and repair. Not the constant covering we do now, where makeup is removed at night only to be reapplied the next morning, giving skin no real break, no time to breathe. Her approach was not about rejecting makeup or thinking it was vain or wrong. It was simply about using it lightly, strategically, not as a mask but as an accent. And her skin, given room to breathe and function naturally most of the time, rewarded her with the kind of clarity and glow that no foundation can fake. Women did not carry water bottles everywhere or track their daily intake, but they stayed hydrated through the foods they ate. Soups, stews, broths, fresh fruits, cucumbers, tomatoes. Their meals contained water naturally, and their skin showed it. Your grandmother's lunch might be a bowl of homemade vegetable soup, rich with carrots and celery and potatoes, the broth clear and flavorful from hours of simmering. She would eat it slowly, spooning up the warm liquid, feeling it settle into her stomach, nourishing and hydrating at the same time. That soup was mostly water, but water that came wrapped in nutrients, minerals, vitamins, everything her body needed to use that hydration effectively. It was not just empty water passing through. It was water her cells could hold on to, water that actually reached her skin. Her meals throughout the day followed the same pattern. Fresh fruit at breakfast, maybe half a grapefruit or some berries, their juice sweet and cooling. A salad at dinner with tomatoes and cucumbers, vegetables that are mostly water, crisp and refreshing. A glass of milk, which is also hydrating, full of proteins and fats that help your body retain moisture. She was not chugging water all day, not forcing herself to drink when she was not thirsty, not carrying a bottle everywhere she went. She simply ate food that contained water, and her body took what it needed. There is something our modern obsession with drinking 8 glasses a day misses. Hydration is not just about quantity, it is about quality, about how well your body can actually use the water you take in. And water that comes with food, especially with a bit of fat or protein, is absorbed more slowly, more completely than water drunk alone. Her body was also not constantly dehydrated the way ours often are. She was not drinking coffee all day, which is a diuretic. She was not eating salty processed foods that leached water from her cells. She was not in air-conditioned buildings that dried out her skin. Her environment and her diet worked together to keep her naturally hydrated. The soups and stews she made were especially good for skin. The broth, simmered for hours with bones and vegetables, was full of gelatin and collagen, the building blocks of plump, elastic skin. Every spoonful was like a beauty treatment from the inside, feeding her skin exactly what it needed to stay firm and smooth. She also ate plenty of fresh produce, especially in summer when gardens were overflowing, Watermelon on a hot afternoon, its flesh cool and sweet, and so full of water it dripped down her chin. Peaches, plums, berries, all juicy and hydrating and delicious. These foods hydrated her in a way that was satisfying, that felt like nourishment, not like a chore. She was not forcing anything. She was simply eating real food, and that food happened to contain exactly what her body needed. Her skin reflected that deep cellular hydration. It was plump, dewy, elastic, not from expensive serums or humectants applied to the surface, but from water held inside her cells, from collagen and gelatin built into her skin's structure, from minerals and electrolytes that helped her body maintain its moisture balance. She did drink water too, of course. When she was thirsty, she drank. A glass with meals, a glass when she came in from working outside, a glass before bed. But it was not calculated, not measured, not obsessed over. It was simply responding to her body's signals, trusting that thirst was enough of a guide. And it was. Her body knew how much water it needed, and it told her through thirst. She listened, she drank, and that was enough. There was wisdom in that simplicity. Hydration was not a project, not something to track or stress about. It was just part of eating well, part of living in tune with her body, part of a diet that supported her skin from the inside out. Every night, after washing her face, your grandmother would sit at her vanity and apply cream, not serum, then moisturizer, then eye cream, then night treatment, just cream. One simple, rich cream that she massaged into her skin with gentle upward motions, taking her time, making it a moment of quiet care. The vanity was her space, a small corner of the bedroom that belonged entirely to her. The mirror reflected her face back, lit softly by a small lamp on the table. A few simple items sat arranged on the surface. Her hairbrush, her jar of cold cream, maybe a small bottle of perfume, a dish for her rings. She would unscrew the lid from the jar, that familiar motion she performed every night, and dip her fingers into the cream. The texture was thick, luxurious, melting slightly from the warmth of her fingertips. She would dot it across her face, forehead, cheeks, chin, nose, then begin to work it in. Her movements were slow, deliberate, meditative. She was not rushing to get it done so she could move on to the next step. This was the step. This was the care. She would start at her chin, smoothing the cream upward along her jawline, then up her cheeks toward her temples. Always upward, always gentle, never pulling or dragging the delicate skin. Her fingertips moved in small circles across her forehead, easing away the tension that had gathered there throughout the day. Down the bridge of her nose, so lightly, barely any pressure at all. Around her eyes, the most delicate area. Patting the cream in with her ring finger, the weakest finger, the one least likely to tug too hard. The cream soaked in slowly, not disappearing immediately the way modern lotions do, but sitting on the surface for a moment, giving her skin time to drink it in. She could feel it working, softening, smoothing, creating a protective barrier that would last through the night. There was something deeply soothing about this ritual. The quiet of the bedroom, the soft light, the familiar texture of the cream, the gentle repetition of the same motions night after night. It was a moment to slow down, to be present, to care for herself with intention. She was not multitasking, not watching television or scrolling through a phone or thinking about tomorrow's tasks. She was simply there, in that moment, with her face and her hands and the cream. This was self-care before self-care became a buzzword, before it was packaged and marketed and turned into something you had to buy. This was just a woman taking a few minutes at the end of the day to be gentle with herself. The act of massaging her face also brought blood flow to the surface, stimulating circulation, encouraging her skin to renew itself overnight. Her muscles relaxed under her touch. The lines of worry and concentration softened. When she was finished, her face would feel soft, coated in a thin layer of moisture that would protect her skin while she slept. She would look at herself in the mirror one last time, her face clean and creamed and ready for rest, and feel satisfied, cared for, complete. She would replace the lid on the jar, turn off the lamp, and climb into bed, the faint scent of the cream lingering on her pillow, a comfort that followed her into sleep. This nightly ritual was more than just skincare. It was a marker, a transition from the public day to the private night, a way of saying to herself that she was worth those few minutes of attention and care. And her skin, massaged and nourished and touched with love every single night, responded by staying soft, supple, resilient, even as the years passed. The products women used in the 50s contained fewer ingredients, and those ingredients were simpler. There were no parabens, sulfates, synthetic fragrances, or chemical preservatives that we now know can irritate and inflame skin over time. Their skincare was gentler by default. Your grandmother's cold cream had maybe 6 or 7 ingredients: mineral oil, beeswax, borax, water, perhaps a touch of rose oil for fragrance. That was it. Nothing unpronounceable, nothing that required a chemist to explain, nothing that her skin did not recognize and know how to process. The soap she used was even simpler. Fats, lye, water. The chemical process of saponification turned those 3 basic ingredients into soap, something humans have been making for thousands of years. Her skin knew what to do with it. There were no long ingredient lists to decipher, no worrying about whether something was comedogenic or potentially irritating. The products were straightforward, transparent, uncomplicated. What you saw was what you got. And because the ingredients were so simple, there were fewer opportunities for something to go wrong, fewer chances of an allergic reaction, an irritation, a sensitivity developing over time. Her skin was not being bombarded with dozens of different chemicals every day, not being asked to process and tolerate things it had never encountered before. Modern skincare is full of preservatives designed to extend shelf life, to keep products stable for months or years. But those preservatives can disrupt your skin's natural balance, interfere with its microbiome, cause inflammation and sensitivity. Your grandmother's products did not sit on shelves for years. They were made relatively recently, used relatively quickly, and they did not need harsh preservatives because they were not expected to last forever. Her soap did not contain sodium lauryl sulfate or sodium laureth sulfate, the harsh detergents that strip your skin and cause irritation. It was just soap, gentle and effective, cleaning without destroying your skin's protective barrier. Her cream did not contain synthetic fragrances, the complex chemical mixtures that are one of the most common causes of allergic reactions and skin sensitivity. If it had a scent at all, it came from a simple essential oil or natural extract, something recognizable, something that had been used safely for generations. She was not exposed to the cocktail of chemicals that we absorb through our skin every day, the accumulation of preservatives and stabilizers and emulsifiers and synthetic fragrances that build up in our bodies over time. Her chemical load was minimal, and her skin was healthier for it. There were no endocrine disruptors in her skincare, no chemicals that interfere with hormone function, no ingredients linked to reproductive issues or developmental problems. The products she used were as close to nature as possible while still being effective. And because she was not constantly irritating her skin with harsh ingredients, her skin's barrier stayed strong. It could do its job of protecting her from the outside world, of keeping moisture in and irritants out, of maintaining the slightly acidic pH that keeps harmful bacteria at bay. Her skin was not in a constant state of inflammation, not always trying to recover from the last product she used. It was calm, balanced, functioning the way it was meant to. She did not have to worry about checking ingredients, researching chemicals, avoiding certain products because they contained something harmful. The products available to her were simple enough that they were safe by default. That peace of mind, that trust that what she was putting on her face was not hurting her, was valuable in ways we often do not consider now. We have become so used to navigating a minefield of potentially harmful ingredients that we forget it does not have to be that way. Her skincare was gentle because it was simple, and simple, in this case, meant safer, kinder, better for her skin in the long run. Once a week, women would lean over a bowl of hot water with a towel draped over their heads, letting the steam open their pores, soften their skin, and prepare their face for cleansing. It was free, effective, and required nothing more than a kettle and 5 minutes. Your grandmother would stand in the kitchen, waiting for the kettle to boil, a large ceramic bowl already set on the table. When the whistle blew, she would pour the hot water carefully into the bowl, watching the steam rise in a thick, warm cloud. She would carry the bowl to the table, set it down, pull out a chair, and drape a clean towel over her head like a tent, creating a small, humid chamber between her face and the water. Then she would lean forward, closing her eyes, letting the heat and moisture envelop her. The steam felt wonderful, warm, soothing, opening. It touched every part of her face, condensing on her skin, softening everything. She could feel her pores relaxing, opening, releasing whatever had been trapped inside. The heat brought blood to the surface, making her face flush pink and alive. She would stay there for 5 minutes, sometimes longer, breathing in the warm, moist air, letting the steam do its work. It loosened everything: dead skin, trapped oil, dirt, making it all easier to wash away. When she finally lifted the towel and sat back, her face would be dewy, soft, glowing pink from the heat. Her skin felt supple, receptive, ready to be cleansed more deeply than usual. She would wash her face immediately after steaming, while her pores were still open, using her soap to work away the softened impurities. The cleansing was more effective after steam, reaching deeper, leaving her skin truly clean in a way that ordinary washing did not quite achieve. Steam also hydrated her skin from the outside in, plumping it temporarily, making it look and feel softer. And if she had any congestion, any stuffiness in her nose or chest, the steam helped with that too, clearing her sinuses, making her breathe easier. This weekly steam treatment cost her nothing except a few minutes and some hot water. There was no fancy equipment, no steamer purchased from a beauty store, no spa appointment needed, just a bowl, a kettle, and a towel. Sometimes she would add herbs to the water, chamomile or lavender or mint, letting their scent rise with the steam, making the experience even more soothing. The herbs added their own benefits: calming, clarifying, refreshing, but even plain water was enough. The ritual of steaming was also deeply relaxing. Sitting still, hidden under the towel, surrounded by warmth and moisture, shut off from the world for a few minutes, it was a meditation without being called one. Her mind would quiet. Her body would relax. The warmth seeped into her, easing tension she did not know she was carrying. After steaming, her skin would look brighter for days. Clearer, smoother, more radiant. Not because she had applied anything expensive, but because she had used heat and water to help her skin do what it naturally wanted to do, shed what it no longer needed, and renew itself. Steaming also prevented breakouts. By keeping her pores clear, by regularly giving her skin a deep, thorough cleanse, she avoided the buildup that leads to congestion and blemishes. Her skin stayed clear not through harsh treatments but through this simple, gentle practice. And there was something satisfying about it, about taking care of herself with the most basic elements, heat and water. No products, no purchases, no complicated steps. Just her, a bowl and steam, working together to keep her skin healthy and beautiful. Modern skincare obsesses over exfoliation, chemical peels, microdermabrasion, acids that promise to resurface your face. Women in the 50s exfoliated maybe once a week with a soft washcloth or a gentle scrub, and that was enough. Their skin barrier stayed intact. Your grandmother understood intuitively that skin does not need to be scrubbed aggressively to be healthy. It renews itself naturally, shedding dead cells and replacing them with new ones in a cycle that has been happening since the beginning of human existence. Her job was not to force that process, just to help it along gently when needed. Once a week, maybe on Sunday when she had a little extra time, she would use a soft washcloth while washing her face, rubbing in gentle circles to slough away any dead skin that had accumulated. The texture of the cloth was just rough enough to be effective, just gentle enough not to damage anything. Or she would mix up a simple scrub, oatmeal ground fine and mixed with a bit of milk, or baking soda mixed with water. She would massage it onto her damp face with light pressure, feeling the grains work against her skin, lifting away the dull surface layer. Then she would rinse thoroughly, and her face would feel smooth, fresh, glowing. That was enough. She did not need to exfoliate again for another week. Her skin had time to recover, time to rebuild its protective barrier, time to complete its natural cycle without interference. She was not using alpha-hydroxy acids or beta-hydroxy acids or retinoids every night, not chemically burning away layers of skin in the hopes of revealing something newer and better underneath. She was not over-exfoliating to the point where her skin became raw, sensitive, unable to protect itself. Her skin barrier, that crucial outer layer that keeps moisture in and irritants out, stayed strong because it was not constantly under attack. It could do its job. And because it was intact, her skin was less reactive, less prone to redness and irritation, better able to handle whatever the environment threw at it. Over-exfoliating is one of the most common mistakes in modern skincare. We have been told that we need to exfoliate constantly, that dead skin is the enemy, that smooth skin requires aggressive intervention. But dead skin cells are not the enemy. They are part of your skin's natural protective system, and removing them too aggressively leaves your skin vulnerable. Your grandmother knew this, not from research or dermatologists, but from experience. If she exfoliated too often or too hard, her skin would become red, tight, uncomfortable. So she did not do it. Simple as that. Her gentle approach meant her skin was never compromised, never stripped, never left defenseless. It maintained its natural resilience, its ability to heal itself, its healthy balance of oil and moisture. She also did not fall into the trap of thinking that exfoliation would solve all her skin problems. She did not believe that scrubbing away the surface would somehow make everything underneath perfect. She accepted that skin is dynamic, that it changes, that it responds to what you eat and how you sleep and how you feel, and that trying to control it with aggressive treatments is usually counterproductive. Her once-a-week exfoliation was enough to keep her skin smooth and glowing without causing damage, and the rest of the time, she left her skin alone to do what it does best, take care of itself. Women in 1955 moved more throughout the day, not in gyms or on treadmills, but through the natural rhythm of daily life. Walking, housework, gardening, errands on foot. All that movement kept blood flowing to the skin, delivering oxygen and nutrients that no cream can replicate. Your grandmother's day was full of movement, not because she was trying to exercise, but because life required it. She walked to the market, carrying her shopping bags home. She hung laundry on the line, reaching up, stretching, bending. She scrubbed floors, kneaded bread, worked in the garden, pulling weeds and turning soil. Every bit of that movement, ordinary and unremarkable as it was, got her blood pumping. Her heart rate would rise slightly, her breathing would deepen, and oxygen-rich blood would flow to every part of her body, including her skin. That circulation is crucial for healthy skin. Blood carries oxygen and nutrients to your skin cells, feeding them, helping them function properly, giving them what they need to stay vibrant and healthy. Blood also carries away waste products, toxins, dead cells, keeping your skin clean from the inside. When you move, when your heart beats faster and your blood flows more vigorously, your skin gets a boost that is immediate and visible. That post-exercise glow is real, and your grandmother got it not from a workout class but from simply living an active life. She also spent time outside, moving in fresh air and natural light, which added even more benefits. The combination of movement, oxygen, and sunlight was powerful, creating the kind of radiance that cannot be bottled. Her circulation was also supported by the fact that she was not sitting still for 8 or 10 hours a day. She was not hunched over a computer, not stuck in a chair, not letting her blood pool in her legs while her face and hands grew cold and pale. She moved regularly throughout the day, shifting from one task to another, keeping her blood flowing steadily. That consistent movement meant her skin was constantly being fed, constantly being nourished, constantly being detoxified. And there was another benefit to all that movement. It reduced stress. Physical activity, even gentle activity like walking or gardening, lowers cortisol and releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that improve your mood and reduce inflammation. Lower inflammation means clearer, calmer skin. Fewer breakouts, less redness, less puffiness. Her skin was healthier not just because of the circulation, but because the movement itself was therapeutic, balancing her body and her mind. She also built muscle tone and maintained her posture through all that daily activity. Strong muscles and good posture support your skin, keeping it lifted, preventing sagging. She did not need a gym membership or a personal trainer. Her life was her workout. And because her movement was varied, reaching, bending, stretching, twisting, she kept her whole body flexible and strong. That vitality showed in her face, in the brightness of her eyes, the firmness of her jawline, the overall glow of someone whose body was working well. Movement also helps with lymphatic drainage, the system that removes toxins and excess fluid from your tissues. The lymphatic system does not have a pump like the circulatory system does. It relies on movement, on muscle contractions, to push fluid through. When you move regularly, your lymphatic system works efficiently, keeping your face from looking puffy or swollen, keeping your skin clear and bright. Your grandmother did not know about lymphatic drainage or circulation or oxygenation. She just knew that she felt better, looked better, when she was active. So she stayed active, naturally, effortlessly, through the simple demands of daily life. Your grandmother spent time with people, face to face, laughing, talking, sharing meals. That kind of connection reduces stress, boosts mood, and shows up on your skin. Loneliness and isolation, on the other hand, age you faster than the sun ever could. She was not alone, not in the way so many of us are now. Her days included other people, neighbours stopping by for coffee, friends met at the market, family gathered around the dinner table. There was conversation, real conversation, where voices rose and fell, and laughter broke out, and stories were told and retold until everyone knew them by heart. That connection was food for her soul, and her skin reflected it. She looked happy, open, engaged with life. Her face was animated, expressive, lit from within by the warmth of genuine human connection. There is science behind this now, research showing that loneliness and social isolation increase inflammation, suppress immune function, raise cortisol levels, and accelerate aging. But your grandmother did not need science to tell her that being with people she cared about made her feel good. She could see it in the mirror, in the brightness of her eyes, the softness of her expression. She had coffee with her neighbour most mornings, sitting at the kitchen table, talking about everything and nothing. The garden, the children, what they were making for dinner, the weather, the news, simple conversation that wove their lives together, that reminded them they were not alone. She went to church on Sundays, not just for the service but for the community, the faces she recognized, the greetings exchanged, the sense of belonging to something larger than herself. She hosted dinners, inviting family and friends to crowd around her table, to share food she had made, to talk and laugh late into the evening. The preparation was work, yes, but the connection was worth it. The feeling of a house full of people, full of warmth and voices and life. And she helped her neighbours when they needed it, bringing a casserole when someone was sick, watching children when a mother needed a break, lending sugar or eggs, or just an ear to listen. That mutual support, that web of care, kept her connected, kept her feeling needed and valued. All of that connection, all of those small daily interactions, kept her stress low and her mood high. She was not carrying the weight of isolation, the heavy loneliness that so many people feel now when their primary interactions are through screens. Her face showed it. There was a softness there, a lack of tension, a natural ease that comes from feeling safe and loved and part of something. Her skin was not tight with stress, not marked by the deep lines that come from chronic anxiety and loneliness. She laughed often, truly laughed, the kind that makes your face hurt and your stomach ache. Laughter is incredibly good for you, reducing stress hormones, boosting immune function, improving circulation. And it shows on your face, in the crinkles around your eyes, yes, but also in the overall vitality, the aliveness that comes from joy. She touched and was touched, hugs from friends, hands held, children climbing into her lap. Physical touch is essential for human health, reducing stress, lowering blood pressure, releasing oxytocin. the bonding hormone that makes you feel calm and connected. All of this, the conversation, the laughter, the touch, the sense of belonging, translated into healthier, more beautiful skin. Not because she was using better products, but because she was living a life rich in the things that actually matter: connection, community, love. Women in the 50s aged, and they did not panic about it. There was no Botox, no filler, no laser treatments promising to turn back time. Wrinkles were expected. Grey hair was normal. And because aging was not treated as a crisis, women did not spend their lives in a state of low-level anxiety about their appearance. Your grandmother looked in the mirror and saw lines beginning to form at the corners of her eyes, and she did not despair. Those were laugh lines, evidence of a life spent smiling, and she did not want to erase them. They were part of her face, part of her story. She noticed the fine creases on her forehead, the slight softening of her jawline, the silver beginning to thread through her hair. And she accepted these changes the way you accept the seasons changing, as natural, inevitable, nothing to resist. There was no anti-aging industry telling her that aging was something to fight, something to fear, something that made her less valuable or less beautiful. She was simply moving through the stages of life, and each stage had its own kind of beauty. She saw older women around her, women in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and they looked lovely to her, distinguished, interesting. Their faces told stories, showed character, reflected the lives they had lived. She did not look at them and think they needed to fix themselves. She looked at them and saw beauty in its mature form. That acceptance, that lack of anxiety about aging, meant she was not constantly stressed about her appearance. She was not scrutinizing her face every day for new wrinkles, not panicking over every change, not feeling like she was in a losing battle against time. And stress, as we know, ages you. Chronic stress breaks down collagen, causes inflammation, dulls your skin, deepens wrinkles. By not stressing about aging, she was actually aging more slowly, more gracefully. She also did not compare herself to impossible standards. There were no filters, no Facetune, no images of women who looked 20 at 40 because of cosmetic procedures and digital manipulation. The faces she saw in magazines and movies were real faces, showing their age, maybe glamorously styled and lit, but still real. So she did not feel inadequate. She did not feel like she was failing because she was aging. She was just living, and aging was part of living, and that was okay. This acceptance did not mean she stopped caring for herself. She still washed her face, used her cream, tried to eat well and sleep enough. But she was not doing those things out of fear, out of a desperate attempt to stop time. She was doing them out of self-respect, out of a desire to feel good in her own skin, whatever age that skin was. And paradoxically, that lack of anxiety, that acceptance, that peace, made her more beautiful. There was a lightness to her, a lack of tension, a comfort in her own face that is magnetic, that draws people in. She aged, yes. But she aged well, not because she fought it, but because she allowed it, made space for it, trusted that she would still be herself, still be valuable, still be beautiful, even as her face changed. Every night, women slept on cotton pillowcases, and many went to bed with their hair in rollers. The cotton was breathable, gentle on skin, and did not tug or irritate the way synthetic fabrics can. And the rollers, while uncomfortable, kept hair off their faces, preventing oils and products from clogging pores overnight. Your grandmother would finish her nighttime routine, face washed and creamed, hair set in rollers, and climb into bed between sheets that smelled like sunshine and fabric softener. The pillowcase was soft, worn in from years of use, the cotton fibers relaxed and gentle against her skin. Cotton is one of the best fabrics for skin. It breathes, allowing air to circulate, preventing the buildup of heat and moisture that can encourage bacteria growth. It does not trap oils or sweat against your face the way synthetic fabrics do, and it is soft, kind to delicate facial skin, not causing friction or irritation while you sleep. Her pillowcase was washed regularly, changed every few days, so she was always sleeping on clean fabric. That cleanliness mattered. Old pillowcases can harbor bacteria, dead skin cells, oils, all of which can transfer back to your face and cause breakouts. The rollers in her hair were less comfortable, small plastic or foam cylinders clipped into place, holding her hair in curls overnight. But they served a purpose beyond styling. They kept her hair up and away from her face. Hair carries oil, dirt, product residue. When it lies against your face all night, especially if you toss and turn, it can transfer those things to your skin, clogging pores, causing breakouts along your hairline and jawline. By keeping her hair in rollers, up and secured, she avoided that problem. She would sleep on her back when she could, or on her side with her face turned slightly up, minimizing the contact between her skin and the pillow. The rollers made it harder to sleep face down, which was actually good for her skin. Sleeping face down presses your face into the pillow for hours, creating friction, deepening lines, potentially clogging pores. When she woke in the morning, she would carefully remove the rollers, revealing soft curls that would last all day. Her hair would be off her face, styled back or pinned up, keeping her forehead and cheeks clear. Modern silk pillowcases are marketed as better for skin, and they do have benefits: less friction, less absorption of moisture. But cotton, especially good quality cotton, is also excellent, and it was what she had, what everyone had, and it worked beautifully. The key was not the fabric as much as the cleanliness, the breathability, the simplicity. She was not sleeping on synthetic satin or polyester, materials that trap heat and moisture and do not let skin breathe. She was sleeping on natural, clean cotton, and her skin thanked her for it. Her whole sleep environment supported her skin. Clean sheets, breathable fabric, hair secured away from her face, a dark, quiet room with fresh air from the open window. Everything worked together to give her skin the best possible environment for overnight renewal. And when she woke, her face would be smooth, calm, rested. No mysterious breakouts along her hairline from hair touching her face all night. No irritation from synthetic fabric. Just healthy, clear skin that had been allowed to rest and breathe while she slept. The fewer products you use, the less likely you are to react to something. Women in the 50s were not constantly switching serums, trying new actives, layering treatments. Their routines were consistent, simple, and their skin was not in a constant state of adjustment. Your grandmother used the same soap for years, the same cold cream, the same powder. She knew these products, trusted them, and her skin had adapted to them completely. There were no surprises, no sudden breakouts from a new ingredient, no mysterious redness from something she could not identify. When you use the same few products consistently, your skin finds its equilibrium. It learns what to expect, how to respond, how to maintain its balance without being constantly disrupted by new formulas, new textures, new chemical combinations it has never encountered before. Modern skincare encourages the opposite. We are told to try the latest serum, the newest active, the trending ingredient everyone is talking about. We layer product upon product, mixing brands, combining treatments, creating complex chemical interactions on our faces without really understanding what we are doing. And then we wonder why our skin is angry, why it breaks out inexplicably, why it becomes sensitive and reactive and impossible to predict. We have overwhelmed it, asked too much of it, given it too many variables to process at once. Your grandmother's skin did not have that problem. It was calm, stable, predictable. She knew that if she washed with her soap and applied her cream, her skin would feel soft and look clear. There was no guessing, no anxiety, no wondering if today would be the day something went wrong. That consistency also meant that if something did change, if her skin suddenly became dry or irritated or broken out, she could identify the cause more easily. Was it something she ate? Something in the environment? A change in weather? With only a few simple products in her routine, the variables were limited, manageable. She was also not introducing potential allergens and irritants constantly. Every new product you try is a risk, a roll of the dice. Most of the time nothing happens, but occasionally your skin decides it does not like something, and then you have a reaction: redness, itching, swelling, breakouts that take weeks to clear. Your grandmother avoided that risk simply by not trying new things all the time. She found what worked and stayed with it. There was loyalty in that, a trust that simplicity was enough, that she did not need to keep searching for something better. Her skin barrier stayed strong because it was not constantly being challenged. The outermost layer of your skin, the stratum corneum, is your first line of defense against the world. It needs to be intact, healthy, functioning properly. Every new product you apply, especially if it contains active ingredients or harsh chemicals, can disrupt that barrier. When your barrier is compromised, your skin becomes sensitive, reactive, prone to irritation and infection. It cannot hold moisture as well, so it becomes dry. It cannot keep irritants out as well, so it becomes inflamed. The solution is always to simplify, to strip back to basics, to give your skin time to heal. Your grandmother never had to do that because her routine was already simple. Her barrier was never compromised in the first place. She was protecting it, nurturing it, allowing it to do its job without interference. There was also peace of mind in that simplicity. She did not lie awake worrying about whether she had made a mistake, whether the new product she bought was going to cause problems, whether she should return it or push through or try something else instead. She just did the same thing every day, and her skin rewarded her consistency with clarity and calm. Her approach was the opposite of what we do now, and her results were better. Fewer products, fewer reactions, healthier, more resilient skin that could handle whatever life threw at it. Modern skincare marketing runs on fear. Fear of aging, of sun damage, of wrinkles, of sagging, of not doing enough. Women in the 50s were not bombarded with messages telling them their skin was broken and needed fixing. They were simply taught to care for it gently, and that was enough. Your grandmother did not wake up to targeted ads telling her that her pores were too large, that her skin tone was uneven, that she was developing fine lines and needed to act now before it was too late. She was not scrolling through images of filtered, perfected faces that made her feel inadequate. She was not being told, constantly and from every direction, that her face was a problem to be solved. The beauty industry in 1955 was gentler, simpler. Ads showed women looking fresh and pretty, yes. But the message was not that you were failing if you did not look like them. It was just that their product might help you look your best. There was no urgency, no manufactured panic, no suggestion that aging was a disease. She was not exposed to before and after photos designed to make her feel horrified by the before and desperate for the after. She was not reading articles with headlines like 10 signs your skin is aging faster than you think or the ingredient you are not using that is ruining your face. That constant bombardment of fear-based messaging does real damage. It creates anxiety, stress, a sense that you are never doing enough, that your face is always on the verge of falling apart, that time is your enemy and you are losing the battle. And that stress, that anxiety, that fear shows up on your skin. It causes inflammation, disrupts your hormones, interferes with sleep, triggers breakouts. The very fear that is supposed to motivate you to take better care of your skin actually makes your skin worse. Your grandmother did not carry that burden. She looked at her face and saw a face, not a collection of flaws and problems and impending disasters. She saw herself, and herself was acceptable, worthy of care but not in need of rescue. The products available to her made modest claims. This soap cleans gently. This cream moisturizes. That was it. No promises of transformation, no guarantees that you would look 10 years younger, no suggestions that using their product was the only thing standing between you and premature aging. She could walk into a drugstore, pick up a jar of cold cream, and trust that it would do what it said it would do. Nothing more, nothing less. She was not overwhelmed by choices, not paralyzed by the fear of choosing wrong, not constantly second-guessing whether she should be using something else. There was freedom in that. Freedom from the mental load of managing an elaborate skincare routine. Freedom from the anxiety of trying to prevent every possible sign of aging. Freedom from the feeling that her face was a project requiring constant vigilance and intervention. She cared for her skin the way you care for something you value, gently, consistently, with respect. But she did not fear it, did not see it as fragile or failing or in need of aggressive intervention. She trusted it to do what skin does: protect, renew, heal. And that trust, that lack of fear, that absence of constant low-level anxiety about her appearance allowed her to age gracefully, naturally, without the tight, stressed look that comes from fighting your own face. She was not at war with herself. She was simply taking care of herself, and that made all the difference. Women in the 50s were not on hormonal birth control that can affect skin in unpredictable ways. Their cycles were natural. Their hormones ebbed and flowed the way nature intended, and their skin reflected that balance. It was not perfect, but it was stable. Your grandmother's hormones followed a monthly rhythm, rising and falling in patterns her body understood and knew how to manage. Estrogen peaked mid-cycle, progesterone rose in the second half, and then both dropped before her period began. Her skin responded to these changes, maybe a bit oilier at certain times, maybe a pimple or two before menstruation, but nothing drastic, nothing her body could not handle. She was not introducing synthetic hormones that overrode her natural cycle, that kept her estrogen and progesterone at artificial levels, that confused her body's signals and disrupted the delicate balance it was trying to maintain. Hormonal birth control can be incredibly helpful for many women, for preventing pregnancy, for managing certain medical conditions. But it does affect skin, sometimes positively, sometimes not. And in the 50s, women were not dealing with that variable. Their skin was responding only to their own hormones, not to synthetic versions that might or might not agree with their particular chemistry. Her natural cycle also meant that her body went through a regular detoxification process every month. Menstruation is not just about reproduction. It is also a way for the body to release what it no longer needs, to reset, to begin fresh. That monthly renewal supported her overall health, including her skin. She also experienced natural hormonal shifts throughout her life: puberty, pregnancy, menopause, each bringing its own changes to her skin. But because these shifts were gradual and natural, her body had time to adapt, to find new balance at each stage. During pregnancy, her estrogen levels soared, often giving her that famous pregnancy glow: thicker hair, smoother skin, a radiance that came from within. She was not trying to recreate that glow with products. She simply allowed her body to do what it was designed to do. As she moved toward menopause, her hormones shifted again, estrogen declining, skin becoming drier, thinner, less elastic. She adapted her routine slightly, maybe using a richer cream, but she did not panic. She understood that this was part of aging, part of being a woman, and her skin, while different, was still healthy. Her diet also supported her hormonal balance. The fats she ate, butter, cream, egg yolks, provided the building blocks for hormone production. Her body could make the hormones it needed because she was giving it the raw materials. She was not eating processed foods full of xenoestrogens, synthetic compounds that mimic estrogen and disrupt your endocrine system. She was not exposed to the constant barrage of hormone-disrupting chemicals that we encounter now in plastics, pesticides, personal care products. Her hormonal environment was cleaner, simpler, more natural, and her skin, regulated by hormones that were allowed to function as they should, was more stable, more predictable, healthier overall. There were still fluctuations, of course. Some months her skin was better than others, some weeks she dealt with breakouts. But the baseline was solid, and the variations were manageable, part of the normal rhythm of being a woman. She was not fighting her hormones, not trying to override them or control them or fix them. She was simply living with them, allowing them to do their work, trusting her body to manage itself. And that trust, that acceptance of her natural rhythms, created a harmony that showed in her skin. Your grandmother did not expect results overnight. She did not switch products every 2 weeks because she did not see immediate transformation. She used the same simple routine for years, trusting that consistency and care would show up over time. And it did. She bought a jar of cold cream and used it until it was empty. Then she bought another jar of the same cold cream and used that until it was empty. She did this for years, maybe decades, never questioning whether she should be using something else, something newer, something better. That consistency allowed her skin to thrive. It was not constantly adjusting to new products, not being disrupted every few weeks by a new formula with different ingredients. It found its balance and maintained it, steadily, calmly, reliably. We have lost that patience now. We try a new serum for a week, see no dramatic change and move on to the next one. We are always searching, always hoping the next product will be the one that finally transforms our skin, that finally makes us look the way we think we should look. But skin does not work that way. Skin changes slowly. The cells that are visible on the surface today started their journey weeks ago, deep in the lower layers. Real change, the kind that lasts, takes time. Months, not days. Consistency, not novelty. Your grandmother understood this intuitively. She was not looking for quick fixes or miracle cures. She was simply taking care of herself, day after day, month after month, year after year. The same gentle soap, the same nourishing cream, the same simple habits. And over time, that steady care accumulated. Her skin stayed healthy, resilient, glowing. Not because any single product was magic, but because she gave her skin exactly what it needed: consistency, gentleness, patience. There was wisdom in her approach, a maturity that we often lack now in our instant gratification culture. She knew that good things take time, that real results come from sustained effort, that there are no shortcuts to genuine health and beauty. She also trusted her own judgment. She did not need influencers or dermatologists or beauty editors to tell her what to use. She knew her own skin, paid attention to how it responded, and made simple adjustments when needed. If her skin felt dry, she used a bit more cream. If it felt fine, she kept doing what she was doing. That self-knowledge, that trust in her own experience, was powerful. She was not constantly second-guessing herself, not always wondering if she was doing it wrong, not looking outside herself for validation. She knew what worked for her, and she stuck with it. Her routine was also sustainable in every sense. Financially, she was not spending money constantly on new products. Emotionally, she was not investing hope in every new purchase, setting herself up for disappointment when it did not deliver miracles. Physically, she was not stressing her skin with constant change. She had found a rhythm that worked, and she honored it. The same motions every morning, every night, a meditation of sorts, a ritual that grounded her and cared for her and connected her to herself. There was beauty in that repetition, in the quiet faithfulness of showing up for yourself day after day, not with grand gestures or expensive interventions, but with simple, consistent care. And her skin, tended to with that kind of devotion, responded with loyalty. It stayed clear, soft, healthy, aging slowly and gracefully, reflecting back the care she had given it over all those years. Trusting the process meant trusting herself, trusting her body, trusting time, and that trust was rewarded in ways no product ever could replicate. Perhaps the biggest difference was this: women in the 50s did not treat their skin like an enemy to be fought. They did not wage war on aging, on imperfections, on the natural changes that come with living. They simply took care of themselves with the tools they had, and their skin somehow was all the better for it. Your grandmother looked at her face with kindness. She saw the freckles scattered across her nose and did not think they needed to be erased. She saw the laugh lines forming at the corners of her eyes and recognized them as proof that she had smiled, that she had lived, that her face had moved and expressed and shown emotion. She did not approach her mirror like a battlefield, inspecting for flaws, cataloguing imperfections, planning her attack strategy. She simply looked at herself, saw herself, and moved on with her day. There was no language of warfare in her beauty routine, no fighting signs of aging, no targeting problem areas, no attacking blemishes, no combating wrinkles, just gentle care, simple maintenance, respectful attention. She was not trying to achieve perfection. She was not comparing herself to an impossible ideal. She was not measuring herself against airbrushed images or trying to look like someone else. She was simply trying to be the healthiest, most cared-for version of herself. That shift in mindset from battle to care, from fighting to nurturing, changed everything. It removed the stress, the anxiety, the constant sense of inadequacy that comes from seeing your own face as a problem that needs fixing. Her skin responded to that gentleness. Stress causes inflammation, and inflammation causes almost every skin problem you can think of. By approaching her skin with peace instead of panic, with acceptance instead of resistance, she kept inflammation low and allowed her skin to heal, renew, and thrive. She also did not see aging as the enemy. She saw it as life, as the natural progression from one stage to the next, as something to be accepted and even welcomed. Growing older meant she had lived, had accumulated experience and wisdom and stories. Why would she fight that? This is perhaps the hardest lesson for us to learn now, in a culture that treats aging like a disease, like something shameful, like a failure of discipline or effort. We are told that if we just try hard enough, buy enough products, undergo enough treatments, we can stop time, stay young forever, avoid the fate of becoming older. But your grandmother knew better. She knew that time moves forward, that bodies change, that faces age, and that none of that is tragic or terrible or worth fighting against. It simply is. And by accepting it, by making peace with it, she freed herself from a burden that weighs so many of us down. She did not waste her energy fighting the inevitable. She used her energy living, connecting, caring for herself and others, being present in her own life. Her skin, released from the pressure of staying eternally young, aged beautifully, slowly, gracefully, naturally. The lines that formed told her story. The softness that came with time was earned, not resisted. She cared for her skin not because she was afraid of it changing, but because she respected it, valued it, wanted to keep it healthy for as long as she could. The motivation was love, not fear, care, not control. And in the end, that made all the difference. Her skin was beautiful not because it was perfect or ageless or flawless, but because it was hers, cared for gently, lived in fully, and allowed to be exactly what it was. Skin that had been touched by sun and wind and time. Skin that had laughed and cried and smiled. Skin that belonged to a woman who knew that beauty was never about winning a battle, but about living a life worth having a face that showed it. Women in the 50s did not use the same products year-round without thought. They paid attention to the seasons, to how their skin responded to cold, dry winters and hot, humid summers, and they adjusted their care accordingly. Not dramatically, not with an entirely new routine, but with small, intuitive shifts that honored what their skin was asking for. Your grandmother would notice, as autumn arrived and the air grew crisp, that her skin felt a bit tighter, a bit drier than it had during the humid summer months. She did not panic or rush out to buy a collection of new products. She simply reached for her cold cream a bit more often, applied it a bit more generously, gave her skin the extra moisture it was asking for. In winter, when the air turned truly cold and the wind bit at exposed skin, she might add a thin layer of petroleum jelly over her cream at night, sealing in the moisture, protecting her skin from the harsh conditions. During the day, she would tie a scarf over her face when she went outside, not just for warmth, but to shield her skin from the drying wind. These were not complicated interventions. They were simple, practical responses to obvious changes in her environment. Her skin was drier in winter because the air was drier. The solution was more moisture and more protection. Nothing mysterious, nothing requiring a degree in chemistry to understand. Come spring, as the weather warmed and humidity returned, she would ease back, less cream, applied more lightly. Her skin did not need as much help anymore. It could breathe, could regulate itself more easily in the gentler conditions. Summer brought its own adjustments. The heat made her skin oilier, her pores more visible, her face shinier by midday. She would dust on a bit more powder, blot with a handkerchief when needed, wash her face with cool water in the afternoon to refresh. She spent more time in the shade during the hottest hours, protecting her skin from excessive sun and heat. These seasonal rhythms were second nature to her. She did not need a skincare routine for every possible condition. She had a foundation, her basic soap and cream, and she adapted it slightly as the seasons changed, trusting her own observations, her own experience of how her skin felt and what it seemed to need. There was wisdom in that attunement, in paying attention to the signals her skin was sending rather than following a rigid routine regardless of circumstances. Her skin was not a machine that needed the same input every day. It was a living organ, responsive to temperature, humidity, sun exposure, wind, all the changing conditions of the world around her. She also noticed that certain times of year were harder on her skin than others. The transition from winter to spring, when the air was still cold but the sun was getting stronger, could leave her skin feeling confused, simultaneously dry and sunburned. She was gentle during those transitions, patient with her skin as it adjusted. The shift from summer to fall, when humidity dropped suddenly, often brought a few days of tightness, flakiness, her skin mourning the loss of moisture in the air. She would increase her cream, maybe do a honey mask, and within a week her skin would adapt, finding its new balance. This responsiveness, this willingness to adjust rather than rigidly adhere to a single routine, kept her skin healthy through all conditions. She was working with her environment, not fighting it. She was listening to her skin, not ignoring it in favor of what some product or expert told her she should be doing. Her approach was intuitive, rooted in common sense and attention. She did not need to research or overthink. She simply noticed what was happening and responded appropriately. Cold weather dries skin, so add moisture. Hot weather makes skin oily, so use less cream. Sun exposure requires protection, so seek shade or cover up. These adjustments cost her nothing, required no special products, demanded no expertise, just awareness, flexibility, and a willingness to meet her skin where it was rather than where she thought it should be. And her skin, cared for with that kind of attentive responsiveness, stayed balanced and healthy through every season, every change, every shift in weather and temperature and humidity. Because she was not trying to force it into submission. She was simply helping it do what it was already trying to do. Adapt, protect, thrive. The air your grandmother breathed in 1955 was cleaner than what we breathe now. There were fewer cars on the roads, less industrial pollution, no constant haze of particulate matter settling on skin throughout the day. Her environment was simply less toxic, and her skin did not have to work as hard to protect itself from external assault. She would step outside in the morning and breathe air that smelled like grass and flowers and occasionally wood smoke from a neighbor's chimney. The sky was clearer, the visibility sharper. On most days, you could see for miles without the murky veil of smog that would come to define later decades in cities across America. Her skin was not being bombarded constantly with microscopic particles of pollution, tiny bits of soot and chemicals and exhaust that settle on skin, clog pores, generate free radicals, and accelerate aging. She was not walking through clouds of cigarette smoke on every street corner, not breathing in the concentrated fumes of hundreds of idling cars stuck in traffic. The water she used to wash her face was cleaner too. Municipal water systems were simpler, treated with fewer chemicals. There were no concerns about chlorine and fluoride and pharmaceutical residues leaching into the water supply. The water that came from her tap was just water, relatively pure, not carrying a chemical load that her skin had to process and defend against. Even inside her home, the air was cleaner. There were no synthetic air fresheners pumping out fragrance chemicals 24 hours a day. No scented candles made with paraffin wax releasing toxins when burned. No off-gassing from new furniture and carpets and paint, all made with volatile organic compounds that fill indoor air with invisible pollutants. Her cleaning products were simple: vinegar, baking soda, soap, lemon juice. These left no chemical residue in the air, no film on surfaces that could transfer to skin. The air in her home smelled like whatever she was cooking or baking, like fresh air from open windows, like nothing at all. That clean environment meant her skin could focus its energy on normal, healthy functioning rather than constant defense and repair. It was not fighting off pollutants all day, not struggling to neutralize free radicals, not working overtime to clear toxins that had settled into pores. Modern research has shown just how damaging pollution is to skin. It causes oxidative stress, breaks down collagen, triggers inflammation, worsens hyperpigmentation, weakens the skin barrier, and accelerates every visible sign of aging. Women living in highly polluted cities age faster, their skin showing more wrinkles, more spots, more sagging than women in cleaner environments. Your grandmother did not have that burden. Her skin was allowed to age at its natural pace, not accelerated by environmental assault. The lines that formed on her face came from living, from expressions, from time, not from pollution breaking down her skin's structure prematurely. She also was not trying to counteract pollution damage with antioxidant serums and protective barriers and elaborate cleansing routines designed to remove particulate matter. Her simple soap and water were enough because there was not that much to remove. Her skin was not dulled by a daily coating of pollution. It could breathe, could glow naturally, without needing aggressive treatments to strip away environmental damage. The sun in her era was the same sun, the UV rays just as strong, but without the additional oxidative stress of pollution, sun exposure was less damaging. Pollution and UV work synergistically, each making the other worse. In cleaner air, sun damage happens more slowly, skin can repair itself more effectively. She also spent time in truly clean air, in the country, in parks, near water. These places offered her skin a break, a chance to be in an environment that nourished rather than depleted. The negative ions near moving water, the oxygen-rich air in forests, the absence of any chemical burden, all of this supported her skin's health in ways we have mostly lost access to now. Living in a less polluted world was not something she chose or worked for. It was simply the reality of her time. But that reality gave her skin an enormous advantage, one we cannot replicate no matter how many products we use. Because the cleanest skincare routine in the world cannot fully compensate for living in an environment that is constantly assaulting your skin with toxins. Her skin was healthier, clearer, more resilient, partly because she took good care of it, yes, but also because the world she lived in was not actively working against her every day. The air she breathed, the water she used, the environment she moved through, all supported her skin rather than undermining it. Your grandmother's hands were rarely idle. She kneaded bread, scrubbed floors, wrung out laundry, worked soil in the garden, stirred pots on the stove. All that manual labor kept her hands strong, her circulation active, and her body engaged in physical work that translated to better overall health, including healthier skin. Her hands told the story of her life. They were not soft and uncool-used, not the hands of someone who spent her days at a desk or staring at a screen. They were working hands, slightly rough, capable, strong. And the work those hands did kept her whole body vital in ways we often overlook now. When she kneaded bread, pushing and folding the dough with the heels of her palms, she was not just making food. She was engaging her muscles, strengthening her arms and shoulders, increasing blood flow throughout her upper body. That increased circulation brought oxygen and nutrients to her skin, feeding it from within. When she scrubbed the kitchen floor on her hands and knees, moving across the linoleum with a brush and bucket, she was working her core, her legs, her arms, her back. Her heart rate would rise, her breathing would deepen, and blood would pump vigorously through her veins, nourishing every cell, including the cells of her skin. Hanging wet laundry on the line required reaching, stretching, lifting, carrying. She would haul the heavy basket outside, peg each item to the line, reaching high to hang the sheets, bending low for the towels. All that varied movement kept her flexible, strong, engaged with her body in a way that sitting still never could. Working in the garden was perhaps the most beneficial of all. Digging, planting, weeding, all of it involved sustained physical effort, contact with soil and sunshine, connection to the earth. Her hands would be covered in dirt, her knees pressed into the ground, her face warmed by the sun. She was grounded, literally, and that grounding had effects we are only beginning to understand now. There is research showing that direct contact with the earth, skin touching soil or grass, has anti-inflammatory effects, reduces stress, improves sleep, even speeds wound healing. Your grandmother did not know the science, but she experienced the benefits every time she worked in her garden and came inside feeling tired but satisfied, grounded but energized. All that manual labor also kept her weight stable without ever thinking about exercise or calories. She was burning energy constantly throughout the day, not in intense bursts at the gym, but in sustained, moderate activity that kept her metabolism humming along steadily. And stable weight, maintained naturally through activity and diet, supported her skin. Rapid weight loss and gain, yo-yo dieting, the constant fluctuations we experience now, those are terrible for skin. They stretch it, deflate it, destroy elasticity, create loose, sagging skin that never quite bounces back. Your grandmother's weight stayed relatively stable throughout her adult life, maintained not through deprivation but through living an active life and eating real food. Her skin was allowed to maintain its structure, its firmness, because her body was not constantly expanding and contracting underneath it. The manual labor also gave her a sense of accomplishment, of competence, of being useful and capable. She could look at the bread she had baked, the floor she had cleaned, the garden she had tended, and feel proud. That sense of purpose, of contributing, of doing work that mattered, supported her mental health in ways that translated to physical health. She was not sedentary, not passive, not detached from the physical work of maintaining a home and a life. She was engaged, active, strong, and that vitality showed in her face, in the brightness of her eyes, the firmness of her jaw, the overall impression of someone fully alive and present in her body. Her skin benefited from every bit of that activity, from the increased circulation, from the reduced stress, from the stable weight, from the confidence and purpose that came from capable hands doing meaningful work. She did not need a gym membership or a fitness tracker. Her life was her workout, and it was more than enough. Rest in 1955 was actual rest. When your grandmother sat down in the afternoon with a cup of tea and maybe some mending, she was resting. Not scrolling, not multitasking, not consuming content, not staying alert to notifications. She was simply sitting, perhaps with her hands occupied by something simple and repetitive, allowing her mind and body to truly pause. That kind of rest is almost impossible to find now. Even when we sit down, we are rarely still. Our minds are engaged with screens, with information, with stimulation, with the constant low-level activation that comes from being connected and available at all times. Your grandmother's rest was different. She would finish the lunch dishes, pour herself a cup of tea, and settle into her favorite chair by the window. She might pick up some mending, stitching a loose button or darning a sock, the kind of simple handwork that occupies your hands but leaves your mind free to wander. Or she might just sit, looking out the window, watching birds at the feeder, noticing how the afternoon light fell across the yard, letting her thoughts drift without directing them anywhere in particular. This was not wasted time. This was essential time, time for her nervous system to truly rest, for her body to shift from doing to being. That rest, that genuine downshifting of her nervous system, supported her skin in profound ways. When you are truly at rest, your body can focus on repair, on renewal, on all the background maintenance work that gets neglected when you are in a constant state of activation. Her cortisol levels would drop during these rest periods. Her body would shift from sympathetic nervous system activation, the fight or flight state, to parasympathetic activation, the rest and digest state. In that restful state, blood flow is redirected to the skin and other organs, digestion improves, healing accelerates, inflammation decreases. She rested without guilt, without feeling like she should be doing something more productive. Rest was part of the rhythm of the day, a necessary pause between morning work and afternoon tasks, between afternoon tasks and evening responsibilities. It was not indulgent or lazy. It was simply how humans are meant to live, with periods of activity balanced by periods of rest. Her mind also got to rest during these pauses. She was not consuming information, not processing news or opinions, or other people's lives. She was just present, in her chair, in her home, in her own life. That mental rest, that freedom from constant input, allowed her brain to process, to integrate, to settle. There is research now showing that boredom, that unfocused mental state we avoid at all costs, is actually crucial for creativity, for problem solving, for mental health. Your grandmother had plenty of boredom in her life, plenty of time when nothing particular was happening, and she was not trying to fill that time with stimulation. And her mind was healthier for it, calmer, more settled, less anxious. That mental calm showed on her face. There was a softness to her expression, a lack of the tightness and tension that comes from constant mental activation. Her face at rest looked peaceful, not because she had no worries or challenges, but because she gave herself time to truly rest from them. Her rest also included longer periods of genuine vacation from work. Sunday was a day of rest, truly. Shops were closed, work stopped, the day was given over to church, family, rest. She did not spend Sunday catching up on chores or running errands or trying to get ahead for the week. She rested, and her body and mind recovered from the week's efforts. That weekly rhythm of work and rest kept her from burning out, from the chronic exhaustion that so many of us carry now. She never got so depleted that her body had to force her to rest through illness or collapse. She rested regularly, preventatively, wisely, and her skin, like the rest of her body, benefited from that consistent rest. It had time to repair itself, to renew itself, to function without the constant interference of stress hormones and inflammation. It could be healthy, not because she was doing more for it, but because she was allowing her whole body to the rest it needed to take care of itself. Perhaps the deepest secret to your grandmother's beautiful skin was something that had nothing to do with products or routines or diet or exercise. It was acceptance. Deep, genuine acceptance of herself as she was, without the constant pressure to be different, better, younger, more beautiful. That acceptance, that peace with herself, showed in her face more clearly than any cream ever could. She looked in the mirror and saw herself. Not her flaws, not her imperfections, not all the ways she failed to measure up to some ideal. Just herself. A woman with a face that had lived, that showed her years, that carried her expressions, that was uniquely hers. There was no voice in her head cataloguing everything wrong, no constant comparison to other women, no feeling that she was somehow inadequate or falling short. She was simply who she was, and that was enough. That acceptance was not complacency or giving up. She still cared for herself, still wanted to look nice, still took pride in her appearance, but the motivation was different. She was caring for herself from a place of respect and love, not from a place of fear or shame or desperate striving to fix something broken. When you accept yourself, truly accept yourself, your whole body relaxes. The tension you have been carrying, often for years, begins to release. Your jaw unclenches, your forehead smooths, your shoulders drop. That physical relaxation, sustained over time, changes your face, softens the lines of tension, allows your natural expression to emerge. Your grandmother's face was relaxed because she was at peace with it. She was not holding a mask of perfection, not straining to look a certain way, not carrying the exhausting burden of constant self-surveillance and self-criticism. She could simply be, and that ease showed. Acceptance also meant she did not waste energy on things she could not control. She could not stop time, could not prevent aging, could not change her basic features, so she did not try. She focused instead on what she could control, taking care of her health, being kind to her skin, living a life that made her happy. That focus on what was actually within her power, rather than agonizing over what was not, kept her stress low and her satisfaction high. She was not torturing herself with impossible goals. She was simply doing her best, and her best was good enough. There was also acceptance of imperfection. She had a pimple, and it did not ruin her day. She noticed a new line, and she did not spiral into panic. Her skin was not perfect, and that was fine. Perfect was not the goal. Healthy was the goal. Content was the goal. At peace was the goal. That acceptance extended beyond her face to her whole self, her body, her life, her circumstances. She was not at war with reality, not constantly wishing things were different, not living in a state of resistance to what is. She was present, engaged, accepting of life as it unfolded. And paradoxically, that acceptance, that letting go of the desperate need to control and perfect and fix, allowed her to be more beautiful, because true beauty is not about perfection. It is about presence, about authenticity, about the light that shines through when someone is genuinely comfortable in their own skin. Your grandmother had that light. It showed in her eyes, in her smile, in the way she moved through the world without apology or pretense. She was herself, fully, unapologetically, and that wholeness was magnetic. Her beautiful skin was not just the result of soap and cream and good food and rest, though all those things helped. It was the result of a woman who had made peace with herself, who carried no burden of self-hatred or shame, who looked at her reflection with kindness and said, "This is me, and I am enough." That acceptance, that peace, that self-love, not as a trendy concept but as a lived reality, was the foundation everything else was built on. And it showed, clear as day, in a face that was beautiful not despite its age or its imperfections, but because of the life and love and acceptance that animated it from within. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and the weight of the day begins to settle, take a moment to think about the women who woke up in those quiet bedrooms, who stood at porcelain sinks splashing cold water on their faces, who smoothed cream into their skin by lamplight, who trusted that simplicity was enough. They were not trying to stop time or wage war against their own reflections. They were simply caring for themselves with what they had, gently, consistently, without fear. They did not know they were living in a time we would look back on with longing. They were just living, washing their faces with soap, eating butter and eggs, walking to the market, hanging laundry in the sun, sitting down to rest when rest was needed. Their routines were small, their products were few, but their skin glowed with something we have mostly lost: peace. There was no battle, no panic, no endless scroll of things they were doing wrong. Just care, just consistency, just acceptance of themselves as they were, worthy of gentle attention but not in need of transformation. Maybe you cannot replicate everything they had, the cleaner air, the simpler food, the slower pace, but you can take something forward. You can wash your face gently. You can eat real food. You can rest without guilt. You can look at yourself with kindness instead of criticism. You can trust that less might actually be more, that your skin knows what to do if you stop interfering, that beauty has never been about perfection. History is not always glamorous or dramatic. Sometimes it is just a woman at a vanity, smoothing cream into her skin, breathing quietly, grateful for the day that has passed and the rest that is coming. And that is enough. That has always been enough. Good night, and may you wake tomorrow with skin that has been allowed to simply rest, to breathe, to be exactly what it is, yours.